Happy Hump Day.
Happy Hump Day, Tracy. How is everything over there? God's country.
God's country. Everything's grand. What's been happening in Sydney? I think what I did since I last spoke to you. Oh, not really. Been working. Got a lot of catch-ups, friends coming up, which is nice.
Very good.
Always love connecting with friends. Oh, my sister had a baby.
Oh, of course. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Oh gosh. Oh, look me up.
All in love. Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody's doing well.
Yeah, she's doing well. Little baby girl. She's like just over a week old now. And my sister was back home. She did have to, she was in for an elective C-section because last time she was in labor for like 34 hours and then she had to have an emergency C-section. So this time,
No. Yeah.
but then she got booted off the list because of an emergency. So she was there all day. No, and it's nil by mouth because you can't eat going for surgery. So she was there all day, and then she told you to come back. I think you have to even fast, like, 8 hours, like you do for blood, 8 hours, So then she had to come back in the morning to go on the emergency list.
Right.
And then she went back in the morning, when she actually went, and then we might be able to put you on the list in the afternoon. And when she actually 10:30 at night.
Oh no.
Yeah.
She hadn't eaten the previous day, then has fast for the next day, and then
No, perfect.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, just what having an elective on the NHS.
That's it. But baby's happy and healthy.
Baby's happy and healthy, and she's happy and healthy, and she's not complaining at all about that scenario. It's just me just thinking, could do better, really. So yeah,
and you're hungry just talking about it.
She's healthy, she's happy, mum and baby are well. Everybody's in the baby bliss bubble right now.
Yes. Nice. Very nice. Oh, it must feel a little bit strange though, being over in Australia and being able to cuddle the baby.
I know. I love that new baby smell. I like that new baby smell. Yeah, so I've had this sad that I can't immediately go and hold and say,
yeah,
healthy Tracy, let's have a squeeze.
It's probably a while before your next trip to the UK, so
probably, yeah, probably, but yeah. Oh, I started watching that Baby Reindeer, but I'll talk about that later. We've got time.
Okay, yes, very good. So, remember last time we were talking about female genital mutilation, and I said we need to figure this out a little bit more and understand male circumcision a bit more. So I was Googling and I found, I didn't realize this at all, Tracy, but there's actually genuine medical reasons why men get circumcised. I had no idea, but there's an article I found in WHO, the World Health Organization. They actually have a program where they're encouraging voluntary medical male circumcision, so VMMC, for the prevention of HIV and hepatitis B. It's like, no idea.
No idea.
No idea. Which is a really good thing, obviously, but I was just really fascinated about how I did not know or even appreciate this at all. I didn't understand that male circumcision could actually have these positive effects. But they're eventually running a program to push VMMC in Eastern and Southern Africa, where there's a really high incidence of HIV and hepatitis B. And they're pushing the program to help reduce the risks. Obviously, there's a lot of people with HIV and AIDS in those regions, so there's a higher risk of catching HIV, and hepatitis B is also a problem that can be prevented with VMMC. And it can actually lower wait for it, by 50 to 60%. It can lower the risk.
Wow.
Amazing.
That is amazing.
And that wasn't enough because then I was like, how?
How? Yeah, how is this possible? Yeah.
And it's because apparently HIV enters the body through the urethra, so that's that tippy bit on the end of the penis, and then or through the foreskin of the penis, and also if there's any open sores, which sounds really yucky. Penis,
and it was the mucosa lining, I think, as well. Like, I'd say
underneath the foreskin.
I'd say mucosa line of the women's vagina would also be where it would enter if it's sexually transmitted, but through cups as well. So I don't know. Is it saliva? I don't know about saliva. Is that transmissible through saliva?
And HIV? No, I don't think so. But like, I suppose if you've got blood in your saliva,
or put in your mouth,
yes, that's fine. But I don't think saliva per se. Don't quote me on it, but I don't think so.
I actually, on the sense of disease control prevention, so a source I would trust, not Facebook. I don't get my news from Facebook. Very rarely transmission has occurred if both partners have sores or bleeding gums. So very rarely, because a lot of people do have bleeding gums. Like, you can't transmit HIV if you close mouth or social kissing with someone who has HIV.
Yeah.
So you can't transmit HIV with saliva. Good to know. But yeah.
Yes. Very good to know.
But you can transmit. What was that kissing disease that teenagers used to get? Is it yellow fever? What is it? Not yellow fever.
No, it's this thing that it's like the flu, isn't it? And you get really tired.
Yeah. What's it called? I
remember.
Glandular fever.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of people would have got glandular fever from kissing.
I'm actually dropping out of uni for having one.
Yeah. It's actually quite a bad virus. It's a bad virus, and it can be triggered later in life with other viruses. Like if you got COVID and you'd had glandular fever, or if you got HPV.
Right.
So viruses can trigger each other as well, which we knew we've heard.
Yeah.
Anyway, go on.
Anyhow,
sorry, move on.
Then I was going to have a look at male circumcision. And, well, we'd also talked about Jews, hadn't we? And the Jewish community getting circumcised, and we weren't kind of sure why all that was. And
that was a religious reason. The covenant between God and Abraham, where God had asked him to do that in order to give him, abundance and land or whatever. Specifically,
right, is it a sacrifice? Is that basically it then, a sacrifice?
Yeah, a sacrifice. Yeah.
Okay.
So there you go.
There you go. No, I just thought that was really interesting, and I thought it was really a really good reason to get circumcised. We kind of were scratching our heads as to why people would do that, but
yeah. Oh, but one more thing to spoil on it, because I also did a little bit of digging on that because I really wanted to know. Apparently in medical textbooks, the male foreskin does contain a lot of nerves and other things that increase the sensitivity, especially the most sensitive part of a man's body. So by removing it, it does decrease sensitivity. So I imagine that will impact your sexual health. But if you've had it done since birth, you wouldn't even know the difference. And I'm sure you get enough. I'm sure you get enough fun anyway. Regardless.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Who can move on now?
That was a little sidebar, but I do have a new article that I thought would be nice for us to talk about. And it's about haptic technology, and I'll explain what that is in a minute. But haptic technology creating new ways to experience music for people who are deaf or hard of hearing. This is an article in the ABC, and they'd interviewed a lady. She's called Lauren Fox. She's a deaf person, so obviously she'd have great difficulty experiencing the joys and pleasures of music. But she said that using the haptic vest has changed the way she can experience live music. So earlier this year, Lauren attended a festival and she was given the opportunity to try a haptic vest. And basically, haptic technology, what it does is it creates like a tactile feedback vibration motion so you can physically feel the music. So for deaf people, obviously, who can't hear the music, they can interpret the music through feel. And so being able to kind of enjoy the music in a different way to what we would experiencing it, but still, in their own way. So when she was interviewed, she said that it gives her a connection to the music that she's not experienced before. It's fantastic. You can feel each individual instrument, which is really interesting. You can feel your whole body pumping. She said it was really difficult to explain, but for her, it's to see a new way of being able to experience music that she hasn't been able to do before. So haptic technology has actually been around for quite a long time. And I mean, have a read of the article in the ABC. It's quite a long article and it kind of goes into the technology. But what I'd understood was that it's been around for a long time, but it's only been more recently that the technology has been able to be kind of made lightweight enough and small enough to be worn. Because previously, there was the idea of making some kind of device for people to experience haptic technology, but it was really heavy and big and cumbersome. Whereas now this vest is compact and more lightweight and therefore more accessible for people to actually wear it and not being so intrusive. And if you want to try and understand haptic technology, it's the same as when your iPhone vibrates or buzzes in your hand. So that's what haptic technology is. It's something being converted into a vibration. So in this case, it's music and musical instruments that are being converted into a vibration. And I saw in the article as well, somebody was explaining that the human brain is it has its own way of being able to convert that haptic technology into a feeling and perception. So that's kind of how it's working for a deaf person. They're not just, I guess, feeling vibration. Their brain is then interpreting that so that they can experience the music. Yeah, so I thought it was really nice. This is what we talk about here, DEI, and it's a really nice intrusive technology so that deaf people can now also, with this type of technology, feel and experience what we do when we listen to music.
I thought this is a really, really good story and something I'd never heard of or seen. Never seen it. I thought it was amazing. And I thought about, I wanted to look at what was available for people without hearing, even people without sight, and how they may experience art, for example.
But yeah, I mean, the good thing is that it seems like in Australia, there are other live events that are going, trying to incorporate this haptic technology. Because right now, like from a personal perspective, I think they're saying a vest would cost between 600 to 800 Aussie.
Yeah.
Which is, for some people, that's, a lot of money. It's too expensive for them to be able to access the best. But over time, it's like with everything, with all technologies, over time, as they become more popular, the costs often come down and it becomes more accessible.
Yeah. And I think they also, because I mean, currently, depending on where you live in the world, a lot of people have access to cochlear implants, which gives them hearing ability. But, that requires a very, not complex, complex health infrastructure that not all countries have.
Yeah.
So this would be a less complex way to provide deaf people with the ability to experience music. And even, I think it goes as far as to say experience voice, like people talking, not just music. So I don't know how that would work, but I think that's pretty cool. And then I did find something kind of related. It's very specific to Australia and fans attending gigs and making accessibility a thing at venues for audiences. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So there was lots of things that they were doing. Like, for example, say you're in a wheelchair and you need someone to help you get around, then giving free tickets to carers, which I thought was pretty cool. And then having certain technologies for people that are deaf or hard of hearing, but having also sign language interpreters sign lyrics at main stages.
Okay.
That was something else they were doing. I just thought it was really good that people are getting creative and thinking of ways to be more inclusive so that everybody can enjoy music. People don't think, hearing people and seeing people don't think about how much of a almost privilege, or take it for granted basically, that you can go to concerts, to music, listen to comedians, watch movies, and have that really enjoyable experience. Tends to be why people do those things. So I just thought that people getting creative to make it inclusive for everyone of all abilities is fantastic.
Yeah, really, it is. Very good.
Good. Okay, I'll move on to my story. So we have talked about this topic before. So when the women gender pay gap report came out in Australia, and it was kind of the first time, other countries have been, publishing reports for a while. It was kind of the first time in Australia. It was only a few months ago. So we talked about it already, talked about the results and what they meant, and it obviously came from a specific publication. I'm just trying to remember what episode it was in. So we did talk about this back in March when the report came out. It was season 3, episode 6. So we already talked about it. But why I wanted to talk about this isn't really an article. It's a company that I found or heard about. And this company is called E61 Institute, and it's a nonpartisan economic research institute. So essentially, it's set up to be non-biased or affiliated with any political party. And what they do is they combine innovative data with state-of-the-art tools from economics, data science, statistics to answer the most important economic questions facing Australia. And it was launched, this company, with the motivation to bring together problem solvers from academia, industry, and government to push knowledge frontier, tackling the big problems in society. And gender pay gap is a big problem. So they just did a report after this other report. They did their own research around the data, which I thought was great. They broke it down in another way and looked at different angles, or it answered the questions that were brought forward by the other publication. So unpacking Australia's gender wage gap. So there's a full paper if you want to read it. I'm not going to read it. You can download it from E61 Institute. But essentially, it's saying that Australian women earn on average 15% less per hour than men. And the causes are rooted in different occupational choices between men and women, which we know, which we've already said. Is the pay gap rooted in difference in occupational choices? So they're saying women are going for the occupations that pay less. Is that why? Or is it reflected in the differences in pay across genders for identical occupations?
Yeah.
So those are the questions that they wanted to answer.
Okay.
And they found that men and women are substantially segregated across occupations. So for men and women to be distributed equally across occupations, two-fifths of men or two-fifths of women would have to change occupations. So that's about, in engineering, to get 50% of men and women, because we know it's majority male, then two-fifths of men would have to leave and go and do something else, and two-fifths of women would have to come in and do those jobs. So that's basically how I interpret that. Approximately 1/5 of the estimated overall hourly gender wage gap is driven by men and women working in occupations with different pay rates. The remainder is driven by differences in pay within the same occupation. Approximately 1/5 of the estimated overall hourly gender wage gap is driven by men and women working in occupations with different pay rates. So we can see from the data that differences between genders in personal characteristics such as full-time status, educational attainment, number of dependents, and Australian tertiary admissions rank. I didn't know that's what ATAR stood for. Scores. Basically, the scores coming out of the high school certificate do not account for gender pay gap within occupations, nor do they explain why women sort into lower paying occupations. Among university-educated individuals of similar, let's just say, academic achievements, women are less likely to sort into higher paying career options, such as STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Marriage and parenthood have a different effect on women's hourly earnings than they do on men's, which drive many of the differences in hourly pay with occupations. So what brought this to my attention was it was on the news and the woman was being interviewed on the news. And they asked her, well, what needs to be done to close this gap? And she said, we need to give men the same opportunities and make it as normal for them to be carers for their children. To take on that, not people say burning. To take on that role, that duty.
Yeah.
We need to give men the opportunity and not make it a taboo, like, well, why are you doing it? Why isn't it? Or make an assumption that it should be the woman because she delivers the baby.
Yeah. We talked about this before, didn't we? That it's also about what you see as a child that's going to influence you. And we're still from the generations where women have taken on that role as more commonly have done that. Mm-hmm. So and until there's a shift, the perception is going to be that it's more of a woman's role to take that on, the primary care or whatever.
Yeah, I know. And you're right, it's programming.
Yeah.
It is. And it's so, for a woman, it's internal and external. Internal, how she feels, what she feels her responsibilities are.
Yeah.
Obligation. And I'm not saying every woman, some would prefer them. Without that, regardless of programming. But I think there's a large proportion of women that feel obligated, like it's their duty and there's no other choice.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like maybe even men have the same kind of limitation. They feel like they have no other choice but to provide. And they don't have the option to stay.
So there's more like the shift that even happen.
And even the culture. I've heard comments where men have asked, more men probably started to ask for that. But I have, depending on who your boss is and where you work, there's been more, more resistance to that kind of change. Like, well, why?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would agree. It's one of the solutions. It can't be the only solution, though. There's got to be it's a more of a holistic thing, isn't it? It's one of the other things is there's a definite attitude between men and women, and again, this is coming from what you're exposed to. I heard somebody say once that when men go for a new job, they don't go for a sideways move, they go up. So they move from one employer to another and they move upwards. Whereas women are more likely to accept a sideways movement. Like if they're not happy in their current work, they'll move sideways with a view to moving up in that organization. And they would rather, there's like a difference in programming in that women are more likely I need to gain the experience first before I'm going to gain the confidence to take on that higher position. Whereas men will just be like, I will just
learn on the job.
Give it learn on the job. Yeah. So, and maybe that's a conflict. I don't really know. Obviously, you don't want to put people in boxes, but somebody said that to me once. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe that could be part of the explanation.
And it's also going for the promotion, going for those higher paying jobs. Absolutely. And at the same time, that same belief will stop women hiring certain people or choosing people for positions that haven't had experience. Whereas men are more likely to choose people with potential. So it's the same back and forth. You can't win kind of situation. So there's a lot of things to change in attitudes in both men and women to make a dent in that gap for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, really interesting resource. I wanted to share it.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Trace. We can have a look at that in more detail. But yeah, it is like there's many layers to this, isn't there? You have
Yeah,
to keep peeling
absolutely.
it back to understand. Yeah, but at least it's being addressed now. You know, it's something that is more prominent in the news and prominent in people's minds. People even understand that there is a gender pay gap. So
I know, but actually, what I was surprised at when I think about it is how long it took Australia to actually do this formal kind of reporting. It's only very recently. Whereas, the UK and the US been doing it for quite a while. I don't know why that surprised me, but it really did when I think about it. What took Australia so long?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could be that, typically the wages in Australia are pretty good, right? So if you're in a situation where your wages are not so great, there's more, there's going to be more emphasis on why, right? It's going to be,
Yeah.
well, you're going to have more motivation to explore that topic more. But typically the wages in Australia are pretty good, like in terms of, standard of living and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, anyway, recap E61 Institute. And they answer lots of questions on lots of different topics, but that one just happened to catch my eye. It was on the news. Moving on. What would you do?
What would you do? You still don't have the jingle.
No, hold on.
Yeah.
What you do? What? What you do?
What would you do? What would you do?
Yeah. We need somebody who's good at jingles. What would they jingle?
Not us, obviously.
Not us. Where would you do? All right.
Yeah.
On this topic. So, what would you do?
What have you got? Hit me with it.
If you're chatting to a friend, with a friend, I just thought it doesn't matter if it's a friend or family member, but male, who's hearing this, us talking about the gender pay gap, and it's in the news all the time, and their opinion is that it's just not true. Fake news, Lucille. Fake news. This is fake news. This is made up.
Yeah.
It's not real. In this day and age, it's just feminist propaganda.
Right. Yes.
I just ripped that up. It's just feminist propaganda. Just women that hate men.
Hitting me where it hurts, crazy.
Women that hate men, and part of the, men can't do anything right.
Oh, God.
Yeah. We're getting to that stage now. Men can't even breathe, especially white men. I was just laughing because I was watching the TV show. It was great. It was a movie. Well, I'll come back to the movie. It was funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, what would you do?
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is the hardest. Unless you've got all the facts and figures to hand, it's really hard, isn't it? Because I think it's good when somebody's throwing those types of wild statements out there about something not being true or being true. It's nice to be able to back up your side of the conversation with some hard facts, which I probably wouldn't have to hand at the time. But what I would say is that, honestly, anybody can say anything is propaganda, can't you? You can take anything and say, oh, that's made up. That's not true. That's propaganda. And I would say that there is no reason for it to be propaganda, because most of the news and everything historically has been dominated by men, hasn't it? So for information like this to be out there, it's unlikely that it's women forcing that propaganda.
Yeah, forcing that agenda.
It's unlikely, yeah. It's unlikely that gender is going to fly without it being true. But also, I would say to that person, I would want to understand what would be the benefit of it being propaganda. It's of no benefit to anybody.
Yeah.
And course, there's all the data and studies and the reports that are being put out there now. Companies in the US and the UK and Europe and Australia, they're not going to get behind that and push out data that's representing them in a bad light. If anything, they're going to want to do the reverse. So, if they wanted to try and manipulate the data, that's what they would do. So, yeah, I would rely on the fact that there are reports, there are data, this government, like you said, that non-partisan, data and groups that are pulling together stats and information to help support the argument or help support the facts that there is a gender pay gap.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had this discussion, right? And it goes back to what we were just saying earlier as well. So I'm an employer and I've got a budget for this role. And I've got two positions. And I interview and the man asks for near the top end of my budget. Same job. And the woman comes in, same job. So there's two roles, same job, the same occupation. She comes in, she asks for like half my budget, and I just give them both the jobs. So there you go. You've got a massive gap in pay already.
Yeah.
But I'm doing right by the business. I gave them what they asked for. Yeah. I'm not going to offer them more because they didn't ask for more. And it's within my budget.
Yeah.
Or even if, let's just say, the guy asked for more than the budget, it would be no, and we'd be negotiating down, but it would still be higher. So that's probably a scenario that kind of plays out.
Yeah.
Do you think that's fair?
One interesting thing I'm thinking about now, going back to when I was interviewing people and hiring people, and you've done that for numerous roles, I can't think of a situation actually where I would be interviewing somebody and then having that salary, the salary conversation or negotiation. If they ask for a really, really high salary, I cannot think of a situation where I would be offended by that or even be thinking, oh, well, I'm going to discount your, because if I thought that person was really going to do a really good job, and I really wanted them, even if they aimed really high, it wouldn't put me off. I was there doing this negotiation. We're fine. So there's actually, and this is like women and men who are out there listening, I guess, I'd say there's actually no disadvantage from my perspective to aiming high. It's a negotiation, and potential employer really thinks that you're a good fit. That shouldn't be something that would put you off. Whereas thinking from my personal perspective, in the past where I have been looking for a job, I don't aim, I go, well, what would be reasonable? And I shouldn't be thinking that.
I tell you what, a question annoys me, which I've had. When they ask you what you were earning, I don't think they should be allowed to ask you that, or that you should have to answer. Because then that's a justifying them giving you something just a bit high, or it kind of, I feel like it's limiting you from asking what you want for that role. I don't know. Does that happen? Yeah, it does happen. I remember it happening. What are you currently earning, or what are your salary expectations? That's a better question than what are you currently earning in your current role. I think that's fairer, but
and to be fair, a lot of people might be moving because they feel they're being underpaid. So then telling your potential employer what you're currently getting paid, just so them to give you a little bit more, is it's actually going to defeat the point of you moving in the first place. Because people,
definitely a question that you should not ask in an interview. Salary expectations, fine, but what you're currently earning, I don't think you should be asking that question.
Yeah. I mean, what's your take on what I said? Would that put you off? Because that was just me. I would think, okay, well, that's what you... It wouldn't offend me.
Although, in context dependent, it comes into like, I want $1 million.
Yes.
It's like, you've been
wrong.
Well, that's me at the door. Well, when you out the door, I think it honestly really depends on how that person's interviewed, what the attitude is generally, and what their attitude is when they ask for that. Are they coming from a place of, I'm better than Ben Hare. I'm
It's arrogant, obviously, but
yeah, if there's a nexus of arrogance there, I am going to be like going,
yeah,
there's the
but
door.
what I'm saying is, if somebody's arrogant in an interview anyway, you're probably not gonna. But if you really like your candidate,
Yeah.
and then you get to the salary negotiation,
Yeah.
and they're asking for this.
To be honest, that has happened to me. Actually, it happened to me before I left. So it did happen to me. And I went and talked to HR as soon as I'll do what I can.
There you go. Because you like them, you want them. So
that's what you do.
Yeah.
But then I tell you what does cause problems though, if they're on higher than the other people in the same role, because people are already there and you know what I mean? That's the kind of complexity that I'm talking about. So I don't know what we can do to change that, because I think that's unfair personally. I think it's unfair because that's what happens, whether it's occupational pay because new people come in, or men have asked for more money, or whatever.
Yeah.
I respect.
It used to show you that this whole salary negotiation thing is a really important thing, isn't it? And like going back to when, years ago, when there'd be support from, even going back to uni,
Careers
advisors, all that, and how to do an interview and the things you do, the things you don't do. I don't remember ever there being any kind of training on how to negotiate your salary. It was all about how to do your interview to get an offer. Nothing about, okay, once you get the offer, how to actually then make sure you get what you're worth.
Yeah, exactly. I remember pressed for many a pay rise. I can tell you, every time I was a nervous wreck, but I knew I had to do it. I've done it so many times, and I'll say I'm very, very uncomfortable, but I've always done it anyway, because you kind of have to. And to help me feel comfortable asking, even though the experience was always uncomfortable, I would look at the market, I would do research, get reports, find out the range in that role and experience, and I would go in the top end every time. That's what I would do. Doesn't mean you're always going to get what you want, but at least you know what your value is.
Yeah.
And so there's ways and means of doing that. I would say if you're going to negotiate, that's where you kind of start.
I have since read it was actually an audiobook on negotiating. To try and remember what it was called, but the guy there, like, basically it's quite a long listen, but in the end, it basically came down to, if you're buying something, going really low. And so it's just like, you're setting a base, aren't you? A benchmark to go by, and then work from there. But I mean, that's basically the principle.
Yeah, but pretty much.
And if you go in with a positive attitude, this is a negotiation. This is not a hostile.
Yeah, it's other conflict for negotiation. Exactly. Yeah, definitely. And then the other part of that conversation is, maybe you come in without the experience. You come in with potential, so they're justifying not paying you as much. But then you can negotiate a pay review based on achieving certain deliverables within certain time frames, like I don't know, a year, whatever. So you're not, and get that in writing as well. So you're not left, asking for something that you're not going to get a year later.
I just found that book. It's called Never Split the Difference.
There you go. Never split the difference.
So just take it all. Take it all.
Take it all.
But the guy's got some serious, I guess, evidence to support. He was talking about like negotiating a release of like a ransom release and things like that. So so he's got some prowess to back up what he's saying.
Sure. So that movie I was talking about, I don't even remember what it's called. Unfortunately, never mind. But what was funny is essentially it's about a professor, and he was an adjunct professor, which means you're not quite a professor yet, teaching, I guess, literature and creative writing. And in this current day and age, And it was hilarious because there'd been a complaint about him by one of the female students because he had pressured another, not pressured, because you would see it. It could be interpreted as pressured. So this is the thing about different maps. People have different perceptions of exactly the same situation. So he was very enthusiastically encouraging the student to share a very intimate sexual experience that she was talking about in a creative writing story, but she hadn't gone into depth about. So in the class in front of everyone. So that could potentially be like a shaming experience for someone. So you would need to tread carefully. However, the person that is encouraging didn't have a problem with it. She was a bit reluctant, and then she was like, kind of did it, and she didn't complain. There was another female in the class that complained, saying it triggered her because she saw a powerful white male pressuring a young girl to share an intimate sexual experience in front of everyone, and that triggered her because she had experienced sexual assault herself. So it was that person that complained. So that was the premise of the story. And then he was obviously being taken to be accountable by the powers that be. And he didn't see a problem. He was asked to apologize. He didn't want to apologize because he didn't feel he'd done anything wrong, blah, 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 blah. And then there's a funny scene where he's complaining to his father. He's like, he would say, because other, go back to that. There's other male students in the class piping up saying, you can't be a white man in America anymore. Can't do anything right. Can't say anything. And, they were complaining about these kind of complaints and of being discriminatory or being racist or being sexist or misogynist. They were complaining, they were sick of it. And they had a Facebook page and everything. It was like full on. And then this professor was having a meltdown because his life was falling apart. Or most of the students stopped coming to class in support of this girl who'd made the complaint and the fact that he refused is to apologize. And then he's having a rant, talking to his dad. He's like, God, and he's like, you can't be a white male anymore. Like, everybody's against you. Who's attacking you? I'd be better off being black and Jewish and Muslim or Muslim or something. And then his dad goes to him, you'd be so much better off if you were a black Muslim. Yeah. Well, it's so funny because that is kind of like the current climate that white men specifically in particular are feeling that. And I just found it really funny, that little dialogue that he have.
Yeah.
And you know what? I could totally see his perspective as well.
Well, yeah. You wouldn't want to be a part of a community that's being bashed all the time. But I suppose it's not about that, is it? It's just about how can we make it more equal and fair for everybody? And that, yes, traditionally, white men have had it a bit easier. That's all that it really is about, isn't it? And it's like, well, you've had it easy for so long. How about maybe leveling it out a bit and making it fairer for everybody? There's, the comedian Ali Wong.
Yes, all of her.
So, and she did a couple of Netflix specials, and both times she was pregnant, and she said she was at she's winning awards and getting this and that, and then there was a no-name white comedian who came up to her, and he was like, oh, so this is your shtick now. This is how, you get all your fame and la la la. And she's like, my shtick, being pregnant is not like a shtick. I'm pregnant. It's not, I'm not being pregnant so that I can be famous.
Like it's a gimmick.
Like it's a gimmick, yeah, it's a shtick. And she's like, shtick. And he said, yeah, getting all this fame, you're getting all this money. And she said, yeah, because historically, being a female or being a pregnant female that's Asian is a winning formula. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. She phrases it much better.
I like
the fact that she's like calls it out, and it's just like, like this is not a winning formula.
Yeah. Not traditionally anyway.
One guy, like that's the winning. Typically, it's been the winning formula. You're not winning with that winning formula, then maybe take a look at yourselves.
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing. And I think the complaint in this movie, which is funny, is that the white male felt under attack.
Yeah,
in the current climate. And I thought it was interesting because I could personally feel for the professor as well.
Yeah.
The way the movie was made, it was very well written. But actually,
yes, because of the empathy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I look at Justin, he's a white male, and I don't think he's ever said that any of, what's going on now and, what you talked about, the wokeness. I don't think he's ever said, poor me, poor white male. I think he's got an open mind to, okay, this is like, it's important that these voices are getting, people's voices are getting heard.
Yeah, it's gonna ruffle a few feathers.
Yeah.
Bound to.
Well, yeah, it's bound to. But that, I think, isn't like people with the wrong attitude. Like Justin's attitude you'd make yourself, right? And he's a white man, so
Yeah.
and I'm that attitude, I guess. And a lot of people that, aren't born into those natural gifts that have to, work really hard and still don't get anything or anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Again, bigger picture people, bigger picture. I know it's hard. We're all concerned with ourselves, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So I get that. Because I do it. But doesn't affect, nobody's personally blaming anyone. We're just saying, let's do better. And
let's do better. Let's have more empathy for each other.
Let's do better. We can do better. We can do better.
Honestly, yes, that's better. We can do better.
We can do better. No, I feel like I have to say what the movie was, but other than that part of the narrative, I wasn't that excited by the movie, to be honest. That's probably why I can't remember now.
And you said about Baby Reindeer. You said at the start.
Yeah, I started watching it, but everybody keeps going about, episode 4 is horrendous. And I just watched episode 3 and I don't watch episode 4.
Already?
Scared. I'm scared, but I might watch it the weekend. But yeah, I like it because it's showing, well, so far, episode 3, we're seeing this kind of codependent kind of relationship thing happening where some people would have told the police ages ago. Yeah. Actually, the breaking point where I would have said this is the time was when she sexually assaulted him, basically. And and he was very disturbed by it, right? It really was hard. That was, to me, that was it. If it wasn't going to be before then, that was the point. It just kept going.
Yeah. I think you are right about the codependency, and it will unfold if you.
Oh,
yeah. It'll unfold and it will explain.
But actually,
a little bit.
And then it brings me back to my coaching. I think about it, because usually when someone's not doing something they know is better for them, there's what we call a secondary gain. And
what?
A secondary gain.
Oh yeah.
There's usually a secondary gain. So when I'm coaching someone who's stuck, they're not doing something they know they want to do or it would be good for them. It could be losing weight. It could be, living a life of passion and purpose by taking a step towards another career or changing jobs or whatever. It could be, or a new role, whatever. It could be stop smoking, whatever. So coaching someone. So for example, smoking. Generally, people know and believe that it's not good for you. Yet people continue to do it. And people say it's addiction. And yes, but we all have addictions and they're not all the same. I know all addictions are not born equal. However, smoking, you can get that out of the system. I think it's really short period of time. It's 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever.
3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, 3 or 4 weeks. So, and it's not, and then you'll get withdrawals, but there are mechanisms to support that. It's not like hard drugs where you need serious medical intervention to come off. It's not that to that level, which would say not all addictions are born equally. But some people are addicted to watching telly. Cards. Some people are addicted to the phone. A lot of people.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's lots of addictions and they're habits that we can break if we want to or need to, if it's causing an issue or preventing us from getting something. So secondary gain. So with some smokers, the secondary gain could be the social aspect. They're getting connection when they go out, have smoke in social places, they go out and smoking and chatting to people. When at work, it might be the break. It justifies having a break, leaving the desk. You might really hate their job, justifies leaving your desk quite a bit. So there's a secondary gain. There's always a reason that's positive. And, it's kind of positive. Yeah. There's always a positive reason for the things we do that are not good for us or we don't want. So anyway, that's just made me think of that. That's kind of what you're looking for as a coach when you're helping someone.
Yeah. So you're going to watch maybe episodes. I have watched that show. I can't remember what was in episode 4, but I think I know. So that's
all right. So apparently, on the chats are on the socials, it's horrendous. So I'm like, oh God, I need to wait for the weekend so I can do something nice after. And I'm not just like going home,
thinking about it. Yeah, we were kind of thinking about it a lot. It was one of the shows that we actually talked about a lot after during when we were watching it. Yeah.
Cool. But I always love, relevant to this podcast, I love when people turn narratives on their heads to help you see another perspective. It's really good to see a man being the receiving end of stalking, particularly the way. Yeah. And I was on the news, but I never watched it. There was a news story on a man that was experiencing domestic violence. And it was terrible and very shocking. And part of that shock is the fact that it was being perpetrated by a woman. It does happen. Unfortunately, more men than women are perpetrators. However, it does happen. So I think it's always a good thing to shine a light.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Cool.
Wrapping up another episode.
Yes. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. All right. So the next time.
See you later.
See you later. Bye.